Well, hey there, members of the Driven Woman Facebook group. This has been quite the week. As a matter of fact, I don't know about you, but when I am going through a stressful period like I am right now, and one thing after the next happens, I finally reach a point where honestly, all I can do is laugh. I guess I just have an upper limit for dealing with stressful situations. And once I reach that limit, I just laugh. I don't think it's learned. I think it's probably some sort of a coping mechanism, but I've been doing a lot of laughing this week. So before I get into talking about what's going on with our chat for this week's podcast episode and give you a little bit of a sneak preview for next week, I just want to share with you why I'm doing so much laughing this week. And a lot of it does have to do with the topic of distraction and creating a distraction-free business, because I work very hard to eliminate and reduce distractions in my life in general, but in my business in particular. I've come to know over time what my distractibility triggers are, what kinds of distractions that I am most prone to, kind of like my hidden distractions, the ones that I really didn't take seriously enough for a very long time, but I really have to be on top of now. But closely related to distractions are interruptions. And I would say, in all fairness, this week has been much more a week of interruptions. A lot of people confuse the two and they talk about distractions and interruptions as though they're the very same thing. I'm going to tease them apart, share them with you, and then get into a little bit more of a deep dive about this week's podcast episode for those that are here live and those who choose to watch this live stream when it's posted later. Okay, it started last Saturday morning with food poisoning. Now, I have no idea why I got it. My husband and I ate our meals together the day before. We ate the same things. He went to bed, slept fine. I woke up very, very early, sick as a dog, like draped over the kitchen sink, parked on the toilet, and back and forth between the two for several hours. Now, if you've ever experienced food poisoning or even just a really bad flu, you know how exhausting that is. And the last thing you feel like doing is eating. Fortunately, I have my two little dogs. Dogs, I find, are always really keen on when you're not feeling well, and they will just lie next to you for as long as you need to stay in the bed or on the couch. So I really appreciated that. Anyway, I couldn't eat the rest of the day. And by the time I stopped being really violently ill, I slept on and off for the next 16 hours. I did drink some fluids, but that was it, no food. So the next day, late morning, I started to get a little hungry. And oddly enough, what I was craving was an egg salad sandwich. I used to eat those when I was a kid. Haven't had one lately. And when I told my kids this, they're like, Mom, you can get salmonella from eggs. Like, that's the last thing you should eat when you've been violently ill. But hey, I want what I want. So I decide I'm going to take a shortcut and I'm going to boil those eggs in the microwave. I did it once before. It was less muss, less fuss, less cleanup, and it was quicker. But because I was in an impaired mental state from being ill, I pushed 10 minutes without intending to do that. And I went about doing some other things. Next thing you know, I hear a loud noise from the kitchen, and I discover that the eggs have exploded in the microwave so violently that it not only blew out the light and broke the turntable, but it blew the door of the microwave open and splattered egg all over the kitchen. So I spent the next hour cleaning the outside of the microwave, the inside of the microwave, the stovetop, the countertop, the cabinets, the floor, the sink, the counter on the other side of the room. I mean, it was absolutely a disaster, and I was not too happy. And as soon as that was over, the car broke down. Then the dogs got sick and started vomiting. Of course, not on the hardwood, only on the carpets. And one thing after the other, the warranty for the microwave doesn't cover the repairs. So it literally just kept adding up to the point where I just started laughing. I don't know if that's healthy or not, but I figure it's better than the alternative. Now, I would not call those things distractions. I would call them interruptions. They definitely were not what I had planned for the day, and nothing was really going my way. Some really good things also happened. I made some amazing connections this week. We closed escrow on our house. I will be announcing that next week about the move and all of that. But some really, really good things are happening. It's just sort of a sneaky thing about the human brain that we do, all of us tend to pay a lot more attention to what's going wrong than to what's going right. So I work very hard to try to create more awareness of balance in my life, because I can play the victim card and host my own pity party just as easily as anyone else. I just know from vast amounts of experience that never takes me anywhere that I really want to go. So it's been an interesting week. It's been an eventful week. I still have a lot of cleanup to do and some very expensive car repairs and microwave repairs, but I also have really good things to say, and I feel better now, right? I'm not into bed anymore. I can eat normally. As far as I know, that's going to continue. So those are my interruptions. And I think kind of the egg story is kind of funny in a way. In fact, I've had a couple people that I've shared it with tell me it really cracked them up, pun intended. Okay, so do you believe it's possible to create a distraction-free business? Or does that sound like, yeah, nice, easy for you to say, not possible for me, not possible for my age and stage or my life circumstances or my family structure, not possible for what stage of business I'm in? And I think that's probably what most people would assume when they hear it, especially because most entrepreneurs are distractible. It's one of the traits that actually makes us good at entrepreneurship, because what makes you distractible also makes you alert to opportunities as they arise. So you don't want to be so focused on what you're doing that when a new opportunity arises, you're going to miss it. So you do need to be able to be a little bit distractible, but then you need to be able to lead your attention, your focus, your concentration, and your effort back to whatever it is that you're trying to do. So some of the things that I have learned that are really, really obvious about distractions are: nobody needs to have 40 tabs open on their computer. Like, legit. Nobody needs 40 tabs. You don't even need 10 tabs. I used to do that because I was afraid I wouldn't find my way back. Now, if anything's a little bit interesting to me, I bookmark it. I got a gazillion bookmarks, but it's not the same thing as tabs, because once a month I go through the bookmarks, and if I don't remember what it is or why it's there, I chalk that up to an impulse and I delete it. And you could do the same. Having a lot of tabs open on your computer, and some people say in your brain, is absolutely endorsing your brain's natural tendency towards distraction. So that's one. Two, not having any kind of a set schedule. When you do not have a set schedule for your business, and I don't mean like you have to be at your kitchen table or your home office or wherever it is you work from at a specific hour every day, like you're punching a clock and clocking out at the same time. But I do think, and I have personally tested this for myself over many years, as well as with hundreds of clients, that if you have more of a routine, even if you have some wiggle room, you will find yourself to be less distractible over time. A lot of us like the idea of not having a schedule, not having a routine, not having any kind of rituals or habits or consistency from one day to the next, because we think that that's freedom. We think not having routines, not having structure, not having specific rituals or habits, not doing anything in a consistent way, we call that freedom. It's actually not freedom. It's just a resistance to structure. What I've learned much later in life, that I am proud to admit, that actually deciding what parts of structure and routine I am willing to adopt because they serve me has been an absolute game changer. For example, This week's podcast episode number 99. Next week will be 100. I can tell you with zero doubt in my mind, there's no way I would have lasted this long. There's no way that I would have a highly successful show that's within the top 5% of shows globally in terms of downloads, that is literally growing episode over episode. None of that would be possible if I hadn't adopted structure and routine. So I go to work at about the same time every day, not to the minute, but about the same time. And I wrap it up for the day at about the same time. Now, most people don't know this about me because I don't talk about it a lot, but I have been living with chronic pain for over half my life. So as a result of a car accident. So I have learned that the middle of the day, I really need a reset. I really need a rest and reboot. So I get up early. I do 2 split shifts. I work for several hours. Then I have a 3-hour break in the middle of the day. And then I work for several more hours. This live stream is scheduled at the beginning of my second shift for the day. So I'm fresh, right? I may not look fresh, but I actually am. And I couldn't do this at 1 p.m. my time or 2 p.m. my time because that's during my energetic slump. I have learned that when I schedule tasks that require focus, I need to schedule them in the morning. And tasks that require creativity, those I can schedule in the afternoon. Now, I understand that I am at a stage of my life where I do not have kids at home. I have a lot more control over my time than many people do. I was a single parent for a decade. I raised 3 kids largely by myself. So I do understand that when you have littles underfoot, or even an elderly parent that you're caring for, it's going to be a lot harder for you to manage your distractions to the degree that I now can. So all of the suggestions that I make are like, here, these are some things that I have found help me and help the clients that I coach. If any of them are applicable to you in your lifestyle and stage of life, give them a try. I have personally found having structure makes me less distractible. I believe the number one reason for this is it reduces decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is literally you wake up with your brain more or less charged, and every decision you have to make leaches a little bit of that brain energy. It drains your brain battery. So if you're like, well, first thing, for example, phone goes off, and you're like, oh, gee, do I really want to get up now? And maybe you open your calendar on your phone and say, I don't have any appointments for a few hours. I'm going to go back to sleep. You've made the first decision of your day and drained a little energy. For most people, going back to sleep for a few minutes or even an hour isn't really going to give them more energy, but they believe it will. So now the second decision comes. Now, do I want to get up? Oh, I guess I could get up. What do I want to eat? What am I going to work on first? Oh, did I have some appointments today? Let me go back and look at that again. Every one of these choice points gives us 2 potential problems. One, a drain on our battery. The more our battery is drained, the more distractible we are. And then the second thing is we have to decide, am I going to do it or not? This is absolutely tricky business because if you give yourself the ability to decide, okay, here's a task I said I was going to do today. Do I feel like it or not? Come on. 9 times out of 10, the answer is going to be no. You know it is. You're not going to feel like a lot of things that you need to do for your business. So I don't give myself that out. I don't ask myself if I feel like it. I schedule the day, eliminate as many distractions as possible. I try to be as efficient as I can so I can get things done. And then my goal is if I can get the must-dos done earlier, then I can fit in something that I'm actually excited to do, like a reward. right? And this has taken a little bit of time and a little bit of training. Some of the things that I mentioned in this episode that have been incredibly helpful to me, I like the Pomodoro technique. I don't find that I need it so much anymore because I've trained my brain to recognize about how long 25 minutes is. When I first started using it, I had zero time awareness. Zero. I couldn't tell if it was 10 minutes or 2 hours, which, when you consider time blindness, or as I like to say, time optimism, I was often late and sometimes early because I just do not have the same kind of relationship with time that many people do. But through using the Pomodoro technique, over time, I developed more time awareness. Does it come naturally? Still probably not, but I trained my brain. So having more of a consistent schedule, having more routine, like I literally, it's going to sound boring as hell, I eat the same thing for breakfast every single day, every day. Why? Because I don't want to make a lot of decisions in the morning. I don't want to use up my brain battery from the moment I wake up making decisions that really are not that important. I mean, if it's a weekend and I'm not working and I want to think for a while, what do I feel like eating? Should I make some eggs? Should I make some toast? Maybe I'll have fruit. We will go out. No big deal. But on a work day, I do not want to waste that time. And more importantly, I don't want to drain my brain battery because I know that the best time for me to get focused work done is in the earlier morning hours. As the day goes by, there are going to be more things competing for my time and attention, more things that are trying to interrupt me, more things that could potentially distract me, more ways that I could distract myself. So I don't want to gamble with that anymore. And the goal is to not be compulsively busy or even to practice what people are now calling toxic productivity. That's not the goal. The goal is that I want to pace myself so my relationship with my business is a healthy one. I'm not burning out. And I'm also not creating these big ebb and flow situations in my business like I used to do, where I would go through periods where I wouldn't get much done. And then I'd have to make up for it with periods where I worked really, really hard. That doesn't feel as good to me anymore. So I have trained myself to be more steady. Now, a couple of the other suggestions that I made in this particular episode, maybe Pomodoro is not for you. I like FocusMate. I only have the free version of FocusMate because I want to use it very selectively. I know people who do like 10, 12 FocusMate sessions a week. That would not work for me. For me, I need to use them very discreetly and very discriminatingly. I will not use more than 3 a week because I want to decide, when do I need the most help to focus? What tasks am I procrastinating on the hardest? And what do I genuinely need the accountability and the structure of a FocusMate session? And then I will schedule one. If I let myself do it every day, I know for a fact it would stop working for me pretty quickly. If I go too hard on any productivity technique, I will literally burn it out and it will stop working for me. It's almost like using like medication or even a drug. Doing too much too quickly, it stops having any impact, so you have to keep doing more. I'm not going to do that. So I like Pomodoro. I like FocusMate. I love batching. I even do theme days. And I really like doing a bunch of the same tasks one after the other. I've already mentioned time blocking. I'll do the tasks in the morning that are mainly focused on, more detail, more administrative stuff. The more creative stuff is in the afternoon. Client work is in the afternoon. So I can shift the time blocks around during my day and during my week. So I'm able to use my time in alignment with kind of like, I think about it like the modes of my brain, like creative mode, focus mode, productivity mode. I know what times of day it's easier for me to be creative or easier for me to do detail-oriented work. So to the best of my ability, I try to always schedule those tasks at those times. Now, I don't have complete control over everything. I interview people for my podcast. So let's say I want to do my interviews on a certain day of the week, one after the other, during what's a perfect time for my brain. But none of the people that I want to have on the show as guests are available during that time. Am I going to compromise? Of course I am. Of course I am. So it's like the goal is not to be super rigid. The goal is to create structure, the kind of structure that supports us to be less distractible, but then also practice flexibility within that. And the more you do this, the more you realize what is worth compromising for and what just isn't. A couple of other things I want to cover before we go is that I think a lot of people are really not aware of what their genuine limits are. Most of us either don't attempt to do as much as we actually could, or we attempt to do too much. And I find that when we're not doing enough, we tend to get bored. And when we get bored, we tend to get more distractible. Your brain, under the influence of boredom, is literally understimulated. An understimulated brain is going to be jonesing for some kind of stimulation. The low-hanging fruit of stimulation, the low-hanging fruit that you will absolutely reach for when you're bored, is going to be the highly distractible stuff like social media, food, gossip, just scrolling your phone, scrolling on Netflix, scrolling on YouTube. I mean, there are a lot of people spend quite a bit of time scrolling, never actually even consume any content. They're just looking because it's stimulating. So when we're bored, because we aren't expecting enough of ourselves, we don't have enough planned, we will be more distractible because we're in a state of boredom. Another thing that makes us more distractible is, as I've mentioned earlier, decision fatigue. If you find that you're slowing down, that it's taking you longer to make decisions, that you feel confused, like you're spinning your wheels, you probably need a break. Like you might just need a bio break. Like go for a quick 10-minute walk, get a couple glasses of water in you, eat a snack. You might just need something like that. But I do notice that distractibility ebbs and flows, and there's a lot I can do to manage it just by being more aware of what my biological needs are. You may have heard the expression, sitting is the new smoking. I agree with this. If you've been sitting for several hours without getting up and moving, you will be both more fatigued and more distractible. I know it isn't, it's kind of counterintuitive, but sitting for long periods of time, human beings we're not built for sitting for long periods of time. Our sedentary lifestyle over the last 100 years has created so many health problems, but I think it's also really slowed down the efficiency of our brain and made us more distractible. When you're bored because you aren't expecting enough of yourself, you're also much more likely to get pulled in to what I call OPPs, other people's problems. And I'm not talking about your kid doesn't know how to do their homework and they're asking you to come in the next room and help them. That's not what I mean. I mean the inbox. What is your email inbox but a list of other people's needs, wishes, wants, preferences, and priorities? OPPs. So I only check my email twice a day. I'm not 100% faithful to that. Sometimes I check more often than that if there's something important I've been waiting for, some important connection I'm trying to line up. But I really strive to only check twice a day, because one of the biggest distractions for my business is as soon as I become aware, usually through email, also DMs, that someone else needs or wants something from me, they have a question, they want to pitch me, they just want to say hi, whatever it is, that will completely hijack me from whatever else I have intended that I should be working on. So I really have to put the blinders on with that and just remind myself that not so many years ago, nobody expected us to be automatically available around the clock. That is something that has come about as a result of all the technology that we have now. And I don't necessarily need to go along with that. I can let people know if you reach out to me through email, I guarantee you're going to hear from me within 24 hours. But you should not expect to hear from me within an hour. If you do, consider yourself lucky. If I hear back from you in an hour, I'll consider myself lucky. But otherwise, FOMO, the constant state of FOMO, creates a psychological environment, a mindset environment where we are always going to be hijacked by distractions. And oftentimes they're other people's needs or problems. And then we feel resentful because this person or that person is always interrupting us and is being needy or demanding. Girl, you went and looked in that inbox. That's on you. And speaking of environment, that's the last thing I want to cover today, is that something I like to call environmental engineering can do so much for helping to create a distraction-free business. Look, most of us have been working from home for the last couple of years, and for some of us, much longer than that. It can be a really difficult adjustment because most of us are accustomed to going somewhere else to work. You know, working from home, you really need to put some things in place to deal with the distractions that you encounter at home. But what about the environment, right? Are you trying to get work done when you are literally in the middle of your kitchen or your living room or your dining room with kids running amok and dogs jumping on the bed and your partner coming in and out and asking you what's for lunch or dinner? Like, even if it's just a little corner of a spare room, or if there are no spare rooms, a designated space. I have seen this happen. People say, no, that's impossible. It's not impossible. I have seen women start and run successful online businesses from a kid's size desk, like a student desk, in a corner of one of the bedrooms. The way they make it happen is they keep a consistent schedule. They communicate that schedule to everyone in the household as well as to their clients or customers. They have a structured day and they eliminate opportunities to be interrupted or distracted during their working hours. So it's not as easy for everyone to tune things out. I'm one of those people that I can't deal with clutter and I can't deal with a lot of noise and movement around me. That's why I used to work from a co-working space. But some people do really well in a noisy, chaotic environment with or without headphones. So it comes down to self-awareness and it comes down to managing the environment that you have according to your needs. I realize there's actually one more thing I want to say on this. I think a lot of us complain about distractions and we complain about distractibility, but if we're being really honest with ourselves, we're really not availing ourselves to all of the many tools, techniques, strategies, and mindset shifts that would make us less distractible. Because sometimes we just get bored and we just want to plug into what's going on around us. And if that's the case, just adjust your expectations accordingly. Just know that it may take you a little longer to get things done because you're okay with being somewhat distractible and you're going to work with it. You're not going to try to inhibit it. But the worst thing you can do is blame it on other people and convince yourself that you would be more productive, you would be getting more done, you would be further ahead in your business if it wasn't for all these distractions when you're not actually doing everything that you can to reduce or eliminate them. So that's your little bit of tough love at the very end here. And I will be back with you again next week. And speaking of next week, our very next podcast episode, which will be out on Tuesday, April the 5th, is number 100. Really excited to announce that. And the topic is lessons in entrepreneurship from Inventing Anna. Yes, you heard that right, from the Netflix series. Because while everybody else is talking about her being a con artist and a swindler and a criminal, and is she a sociopath or a narcissist? We could have that conversation. In fact, I do have that conversation as a guest on another podcast. But for my podcast, The Driven Woman, episode 100, I am going to share what I think are the very important lessons that we could learn about being a female founder and a female entrepreneur from Inventing Anna. So I hope you'll join me next Tuesday, and I hope you'll be back next Friday for our very next live stream in the Driven Woman Facebook group. That's all for now. Have a great weekend.